Oh, I think I'm going to make a start. Thank you all very much for joining us. My name's Becky Gabriel. I'm a business consultant here at Vitality Southeast, and I'm joined by my colleague Gary King. Some of you will have met Gary at maybe golf days or webinars like this. So just to give you a bit of context, so today's only going to be a 30-minute webinar. We don't want to keep you too long, but we're going to have space for questions at the end. So as always, my ask of all of you is put some questions in the chat, makes it more interactive. There is no such thing as a daft question, so please do ask away. Um, Before I hand over to Gary, I'm just going to put this into a bit of context, I think. So I think it's worth sometimes, yeah, giving you a little bit of background as to why we're doing this webinar today. Vitality are now the third largest life insurer in the UK, which is no mean feat. And we're renowned, as most of you will be aware, no doubt, for offering the best cover in the market with things like sick 2 times and serious illness cover 3 times, offering, twice or 3 times the original sum assured and covering more conditions than any other provider. And then on top of that, we've got our income protection, which does things like giving your clients the ability to lock in their benefit amount by verifying their earnings up front. And all of that is absolutely game-changing stuff for somebody who is claiming. And we know that all of you in your ideal world would want to offer every single one of your clients the best possible chance of making a claim and therefore the best products. And the only thing really that gets in the way of that is potentially the cost. So we're going to offer, well, what we offer through the Vitality Optimiser is giving your clients the opportunity to have the best cover at a more competitive price. And on that note, I will hand over to Gary.
Thank you, Becky. Good morning, everybody. And I think this, one of the other points for today really is to kind of, I suppose, look at where we do offer those differentiators. And I think that the approach to pricing is one of them. But of course, it is different. It's not something that obviously anybody else offers. It is an option that you're seeing when you're doing your quotes. And I think I really want to go through that in a bit more detail today. Not necessarily the mechanics of it and the nuts and bolts. We've done that before, but I want to look at how this can benefit you and your recommendations, because I think it's probably fair to say that Becky, myself, and any of the other sort of business consultants you work with will have seen this objection from advisors quite frequently. It's complicated. It's too complex to explain to clients, either in a time frame or I'm not necessarily that comfortable doing that. Certainly when we have the alternative, which is this premium will never change. And I suppose the first point to mention is it is more complex. It is something that you do need to explain. To be able to sit around and say, well, this premium will never change versus this premium will give you an upfront discount. And if you do the right activities and you maintain an active lifestyle, you'll keep that discount throughout the length of the plan. That is going to result in some questions, of course, but I do believe it is worth doing. And I think it comes with some considerable benefits for you to do that, which I really want to explore today and then move potentially into how we can present this to our clients in a really, really effective way. But I think it'd be worth us just taking a second to look at, I suppose, how this can support your recommendation. Because I think if I let you just think about this question for a while, why don't clients want protection? And I'm sure the first thing that many of you will come back with, well, it won't happen to me, which is entirely reasonable. Optimism bias is a thing. We need to be optimistic as a species. I think, going back to hunters and gatherers, if the first 2 days you went out hunting, you came back with nothing. If you weren't optimist, well, I won't bother today, and we'd have died out. And certainly in the same vein, I'd still be single. But I think it is a key part of one of the challenges that we face as advisors recommending protection. I think the other one to there as well is present bias. And I think if we put that in the context of other needs or products we're recommending, talking to clients about overpaying mortgages, I don't necessarily want to do that. I'd rather have the money here today to enjoy and spend rather than think about what will happen to us in future. Same if you're in the wealth space, of course, talking to clients about how much they're going to need to put away to fund their retirement. That seems like a lot, because we prefer that immediate gratification. And I think Optimiser can help you in both of these places, because if we're talking about the optimism side of things, it won't happen to me. If we're selling a product that is based entirely on you getting critically ill or dying, it's a very negative message. Of course, if we're all optimists, that's not necessarily going to land. I also think it tends to be when we're looking at the positive side of what an optimized policy can do, it is all around prevention. It's preventing you getting ill. It's continuing that journey of you being healthy. Obviously, you see yourself as being, pretty healthy today. Um, this is a tool you have to be able to continue that. So I think it's certainly more of a positive conversation. Obviously, talking about getting ill or dying can be quite doom and gloom. So I think it allows us to put a more positive spin on that conversation, lean more into that optimism side of things from our clients, and it kind of hopes to overcome that challenge around insurance being a bit of a grudge purchase. And I think the proof point of that for us is when we start to look at our sort of data around optimized policies versus non-optimized. I mean, I'd like to think for a second why there's a 54% reduction in sort of those rates where policies are cancelled from inception or not taken up. And I think for me, that's because clients are more interested in that positive conversation. This will give something back, which is great. But they're also excited about sort of taking that policy out, supporting their sort of wellness journey, if you would. And they're less likely to, you make the recommendation, you go through the time and effort of speaking to that client, and then they decide either not to go ahead or look at alternatives potential. Um, but also when we look at not just saying yes, but also keeping that plan, when a client is engaged, they're getting those rewards, they're seeing the benefits of what they do rather than that sort of dusty old insurance certificate that sits in the top drawer and never gets looked at because they're constantly having these touch points with the policy, getting those rewards potentially as well. We see a drastic reduction in lapses over the long term. So great ways to get more clients to say yes to your recommendation, and then of course to keep those policies in force for the long term. And again, if we come back to that present bias, again, we still have that message of if we get ill or unfortunately die, this is what that recommendation is for. Certainly, if we're talking more about things like cancers, heart attacks, and strokes, these are things that I suppose most people would expect to only impact you in their 60s, 70s potentially. We know, of course, talking about protection, that it can and frequently does happen relatively early. But if that's me thinking about a future need, well, I'll worry about that in the future. Whereas if we're talking about an optimized plan that has that immediate discount, we all love a discount. It certainly is one of those key things that helps drive our buying preferences. But also, we're talking about those rewards. We're talking about I think it's probably been for challenge to me is, this is a bit gimmicky, coffees and cinema tickets, but it is that reward. It is that day one value that people are seeing and realizing. And on average, we give back £238 every single year to our members in rewards. I mean, that's effectively, you can take £20 a month off of the premium. And that is, of course, the average. We've got members that are, well into the thousands of pounds getting back in terms of real value, potentially more than they're paying in premiums. So a great way to overcome that challenge about clients, putting this decision off because they can see that value they're getting from day one. And again, the proof point in here is really around the fact that when we look at our claims and benefits report, we gave back £80 million in value last year. And when we look at how that's broken down between the different statuses, of course, as you would imagine, the people that are more engaged are getting more of that value, but still on average, £238 a year. And you can see, of course, the huge numbers of those little incentives, those little nudges to keep that activity going, to keep making those good choices that we give out every single year. But obviously, it is, as we mentioned at the top there, different. And it is something that we do need to explain. And we can lean, of course, into other solutions around the market that your clients will be familiar with to help explain this. And I think, the one for me, which is probably the easiest thing for most people to get their heads around, they will have car insurance. I would certainly imagine the most of your clients will drive. But we, of course, appreciate that if you have driving convictions or points on your license, your premium is going to go up. And I think from an insurance standpoint, we are very familiar with that increase in risk. But every other product in insurance has the ability to offer a discount through obviously things like black box, which is a great analogy because it is just monitoring the way you drive to say, well, yeah, you're a good driver. You present less risk to the insurer. You will get a discount. Exactly the same scenario, of course, with home insurance. We know there are certain factors that will put your premium up because you present more risk to the insurer. but there are a number of things that you can do to bring your premiums down because you present less risk. And I think outside of Optimiser, there is no way of doing that in our space. We know that, of course, being a smoker or having high BMI, for instance, is going to push your premium up. But outside of that, everyone pays the same premium. There is the base rate. Of course, we're in a gender neutral rating environment. Age, realistically, is the only thing that's going to make a significant change there. But there are people that make those right choices. They look after themselves better than the average. They should pay less. And that's exactly the option that we're trying to present when we're talking about Optimiser. And that, I think, is a good way to explain it to clients. Because I think if we look at how traditional pricing works, is we know that your risk of claiming is going to increase as you age, or it's certainly expected to increase as you age. But there are a number of things that you can do to help prevent that. And of course, what a level premium effectively has to do is overcharge you today to offset that expected risk as we age. What we're doing with Optimiser is we're giving you the opportunity to pay a premium that is relative to the risk that you present today. And because you're in complete control of it, you can impact that. If you did absolutely nothing, your premium will go up in line with the increase in risk. Capped at 2.5%, so it's never going to sort of run away from you. It's not like a reviewable premium where claims experience or mortality tables or interest rates impact the premium. This is a fixed guaranteed premium. And those fixes are potentially, those fixes are changed based on the level of engagement. So even doing a reasonable amount of activity, you can keep that premium lower than it would ever been had you not selected that optimizer. And I would certainly suggest we take a look at an example, run it through with the client, show them that standard rate premium, that 50 pounds a month in our example here. Obviously, you're giving that opportunity then to anchor that premium, highlight the value that they're getting from this policy at that level, but then offer them the ability to discount it based on using Optimiser. And then effectively, you can walk them through what that price might look like. If the client didn't necessarily engage in the first year, it's 2.5%. That's it. Very small increase on a £35 policy. Then maybe they make some changes, start to get engaged. That then leads them into realizing the value from the policy, starting those healthy habits, and then they continue the next few years at gold. At this level, you can show them quite comfortably in 5 years that premium has gone from 35 to 37, a very, very small increase. Certainly, when we look at the way everything else is increasing, inflation nowhere near the 2% target, this is increasing by significantly lower than inflation. And again, it provides that security and that safety that we know that premium's not going to run away. When it comes to what sort of activity we're after, it's no more than the NHS is asking you for. If you look at the NHS England guide to sort of what exercise we should be doing, it is obviously a very reasonable level. We're not looking for triathletes here. Bit of strengthening, 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity every week. I love some of the examples that the NHS suggests we do. Obviously, brisk walking might be an obvious one. I don't think I've seen anybody doing any rollerblading since somewhere in the 90s, but by the by, it certainly is an option. But we're not asking for huge changes. We are mostly looking to reward people for the activity that they are already doing. And I think when you look at the point about what people are already doing, 2/3 of the population are already achieving those NHS England goals, that 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity. We pair that with a health check, which is the most sought after value added benefit from an insurance product. CI Experts Critical Thinking Report sort of asked 4,000 people what they really wanted from a policy. Number one answer was that they want a health check. It's impossible to get in front of your GP nowadays. So that activity they're already doing, throwing in a benefit that they're looking for when it comes to a health check, they're at gold. 0.5% increase. And again, there's all that additional value they'll be taking from the policy. And this is what we tracked from our members last year. We're now up to nearly 1 million members on the life side of things. And this is the activity that we tracked last year, which was able to provide us with the proof points to launch our most recent campaign about living 5 years longer. That significant reduction in mortality and morbidity. It's great, of course, for the clients. It's great for us as a provider, less claims. That also allows us to reinvest that saving back into the premiums, back into the proposition, some of the points that Becky mentioned earlier on. But this is, of course, the activity that we're tracking for our members that are giving them those discounts, giving them those partners and rewards. And it is those, I think, that really do drive the benefits to you as the advisor. When we look at our optimized versus standard policy pricing, people don't use that discount to save the premium. They use it to buy more cover. We see a significant uptake in people taking out additional serious illness cover or adding income protection. We also see higher benefit levels. So 31% increase in the average level of cover for an optimized policy versus a standard. And I think that's it's an interesting one, isn't it? Often we find ourselves having to, I suppose, ski downhill to make sure we can meet a budget by removing benefits, by maybe changing a full-term income protection to a short-term income protection. We find that it very much goes the other way when we start talking about Optimiser because people are seeing that discount, they're seeing the value, and they want to maximize it. Our average case size, £505 a year, is significantly higher than the market average. I don't think that's because we only deal with wealthy individuals. I think that's because people see the value, and it comes back to that point about it being a grudge purchase. If it's something I don't really want, the budget that I'm prepared to spend on it is reduced. Whereas it's something I'm more interested in taking out, that budget becomes larger. And I think the really weird thing with this, and it still confuses me sometimes, but we look at where our optimized average premium is always every year higher than our standard premium. So the one that offers the big discount is always higher. And I think that just really demonstrates the fact that people are more interested in taking out more cover. They're looking to receive those benefits from the plan, those rewards. And it really does drive a sort of a positive outcome from a client's point of view. They're getting more cover, they're getting more benefits. And certainly from an advisor point of view, of course, that larger premium, stickier business benefits you as well. So key for me is how do we position this with a client? And I love this question. How active are you? Because realistically, you're going to get three answers, aren't you? Quite, very, hopefully more of those clients you'll see an obvious candidate for having a conversation around Optimiser. Maybe they're not that, but would like to be. And I think this gives them a great tool to be able to continue that journey and again moves our conversation into a more positive space about what this policy can do for that client. It is December. Of course, everyone's going to be looking to hit the gym in January. But I think differently with why we often see people quit the gym in February is because they don't see that immediate return. It's that, again, that search for a sort of immediate gratification. We don't see that because, of course, we're giving those immediate returns. We're giving them those immediate partners and rewards and the discounts and the cinema tickets and the coffees and all the things. So they are getting that benefit to be able to maintain those healthy choices in the long term. And I know it's a bit cheeky to say you're not going to see too many clients that return to you and say, no, I'd like to be unhealthier next year. Unlikely anyone's ever going to say that, but maybe they might say they're just not active in the slightest. I believe that will be less people than you might imagine. But also, of course, it's a great sort of qualifying question. If they're not interested at all, maybe this isn't for them. It is an option, of course. But I do feel that more of your clients will say that either they are active or they'd like to be more active. This is a fantastic conversation starter that might well lead into more positive outcomes from your recommendation. But of course, as soon as they say one of those first two answers, would you be interested in a product that offers you a discount and rewards you for being active? Absolute no-brainer, of course, there. Yes, of course they would. Fantastic. We can have that conversation around Optimiser. We can talk about the upfront discount. We can talk about the rewards that this provides. I think key in here as well is that you don't need to go into a huge level of detail. Obviously, it's great for you to be able to position this correctly to get us off on the right start. But we will do welcome calls and anniversary calls and send out a lot of sort of literature and videos and communications to the client. I think the key one, though, is to have that conversation with our customer care team. They will phone the client within the first 30 days, get them logged in, get them the app downloaded, all the things they might need to do to get rolling. It's pretty straightforward. I managed to do it without having somebody guide me through it, but it just really helps kind of get that client off on the right journey. And also, I think for us, it starts that conversation around what we're looking for here and takes that. Obviously, you can focus your conversations on the recommendation you're making around the protection. Let us handle some of the points around how this works. So just in summary here, obviously, our clients being more healthy is great for the client themselves, of course. It is not only giving them that immediate value outside of claiming on a policy, but of course, we're seeing that more years in good health, less likely to claim, and increased life expectancy, of course. This is good for us, obviously, as a provider. Less claims, fantastic, but we reinvest that back into our proposition, back into our pricing, into those rewards. And And I think, again, key in here for me is that it's good for you. As the advisor, it helps you sell more. Clients are genuinely more excited about these sorts of recommendations. That helps in the take up. It helps in persistency. But also, of course, I'm sure many of us that are talking about protection on a regular basis have had that conversation with a client at review where they've gone, "Oh, sorry, I've got diabetes now," or maybe I've gone through that wonderful line in the sand when it comes to things like BMI, and we're unable to review, or the review that we make is going to result in an increased price. It's more chance of that client being accepted at standard rates because they look after themselves over the longer term. So I think some key benefits in there as well for you. But hopefully that's sort of covered the objective for today. Hopefully you found that useful. We should take a few minutes to see if there are any questions, Becky.
Thanks, Gary. Yes, we have had some questions, some of which Lee has answered as we've been going along. But Simon has asked a couple of questions. Thank you for that, Simon. The first one, and this might take a few minutes to go through, but I think it's definitely worth going through
Mhm.
this because this is one of the key points that we often get asked about. So, Gary, you've just sort of touched on the support that we provide to
Mhm.
kind of back up the broker's recommendation and the fact that the onus is really on us, I think, to
Mm.
go into the level of detail and that we don't necessarily want or need an advisor to do that. But Simon has asked, please, can you give a bit of time to say what happens regarding customer engagement post submission or go live date? So some customers are a bit nervous about the engagement that is involved. I mean, you've definitely touched on a lot of that, but is it worth kind of going into a little bit of detail around that, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a key point. I always sort of maybe rather crudely say, the advisor's job is to make sure the client's protected. That's front and center their their responsibility. It's our job as a provider to support the client in that engagement piece. That's for us, and that benefits us. It benefits the advisor and, of course, the client. But we want to take that on, and obviously, there's a few things that we do, and we have a lot of, as you've probably seen, literature in this. I don't necessarily think that adds is the be all and end all here. The main point for me is obviously the welcome pack that we send the client really explains this all as part of the obviously the acceptance terms. When the policy goes on, there's a lot of information there. The email communication that we'll send out, which also includes a guide on how to download an app. I mean, I think we're all probably comfortable at this stage in downloading an app, but then linking it to a device. You've got videos, you've got step-by-step guides. If within the first 30 days the client hasn't read that and completed it, we will then phone the client. So the welcome team will phone the client within the first 30 days and then just go through that journey with them on a phone call. Obviously, we won't pester them if we know they've already done it. They're clearly getting on with it fine on their own. And then that sort of journey continues with sort of those monthly newsletters. It's one of the great points I think with this is obviously we download that app. We have apps for everything nowadays, and I certainly appreciate you. There'll be views on that. But it is that is the vehicle or the way that a client is going to constantly just get those touch points in with the product. They're going to choose their rewards each week. It's just that nice constant little reminder that they've got this policy. It's not, as I said earlier on, gathering dust in their in a filing cabinet somewhere. So
Yeah,
it kind of continually reinforces that recommendation. But ultimately, we'll go throughout the year. We'll also send them their little push notifications every time they go through a status. Again, continuing that pat on the back, hurrah, well done, you've got to gold, you've got to platinum, whatever that might look like.
yeah,
But then again, the value statement at the end of the year, which
yeah,
highlights you've had 234
yeah,
pounds back this year through, and then here's your most used benefits and things like that. It's again that great reinforcement of the
yeah,
message. If they haven't moved through the statuses, again, 90 days before the plan anniversary, we will phone the client. Notice you've not really been using this too much. Have you been to the dentist? Have you been doing activity that we
that's
can use
good.
to get you
Yeah,
through the statuses? Because you've not really, we got you set up, we got you started, but did you not link a device or whatever that might look like? So again, it is us taking responsibility for that engagement piece with a
yeah,
number of different touch points. So there is there's a whole host of information that we will use. We're happy to send that over to you as a in the feedback. But yeah, we really want to take responsibility for driving that engagement with the client. I think
yeah,
all we need from you as the advisor is to set this up to succeed. I think
yeah,
if we're using it just solely as a pricing tool, oh, that one's cheaper. You have the risk of then the client not understanding why it's cheaper, seeing a 2.5% increase, and then maybe, well, price is going up.
Yeah.
it was set up to fail, sadly. But
Yeah. Just to get also, I just had a couple of things into that, Simon, in terms of what a client actually might need to do, just like at a very high level, a couple of things might be all of us, whether we like it or not, our phones are tracking our steps, right? Unless you've got an old Nokia 3210 or something like that,
I
which I
miss
highly
that phone.
doubt. I know. I'm a
Snake was great.
snake. Yeah, Snake was a good game. So it's telling me that so far today I've done 1,104 steps. That's it, which is quite normal for me, really, with a sedentary job and probably quite normal for a lot of us. But I still managed to reach platinum status. And that's just through like a couple of clicks on your phone, just allowing Vitality to track your steps, very much in line with what Gary was talking about with the black box analogy. It's basically the same thing, a way of us seeing that you're doing something. So there are various different ways. That and the health check are two big areas, Simon. But yeah, we can give you a lot more sort of context and information around that. Bradley has had a good question on here. Do both have to meet criteria to remain at platinum on a joint life case?
Yes. It's limited. So basically, you do rather than double the activity
Yeah.
requirements, it's 1.5.
Yeah.
So
Because we're
effectively, you get a
assuming,
discount.
really, Gary, aren't we, that one of us, if we were a couple, one of us might be more active than the other. We're not going to assume that both parties are going to be equally active. So we give you a little bit of leg room leeway, I guess, for that. So it's like 3,600 points in total. Cool. Okay. Hopefully that answers that question. Um, Gary, ex Scott Prov, question mark from Darren.
Yes. Keep
Uh,
giving away my age there, Darren. Thank you.
Brandy's asked if there is a flyer that shows the starting premium versus if they are bronze, gold, or platinum over, say, 10 years. Have we got a flyer for that, Gary?
We've got a
Or
very handy tool, actually.
oh, yes,
You
the
can
tool.
literally just so if you put in you can either put in our level premium versus our optimizer premium or a competitor's premium if you wish, and it will basically just turn around and say at bronze there will be a crossover point where your cumulative premium would have been, potentially might be higher. Um, that tends to be a long time away. On average, I
Yeah,
think we see 12, 13, 14 years before that premium crosses over. So a really handy way of being able to demonstrate that. But then you can go into further detail so you can then see what that premium does every year based
yeah,
on either being gold or silver or bronze. You can do it in a graph or a table or however you choose to present those sorts of things. But again, a great way of I suppose, highlighting to the client what this premium will look like in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years based on whatever status they get to.
yeah. That is actually a really useful tool. Damien has asked, do you track the engagement call? What happens if the engagement team doesn't reach someone?
We do. We are constantly tracking that because we need to make sure we are getting hold of as many people as possible. Uh, I'll be entirely honest, we don't get hold of as many people as I would like. I would like a 100% hit rate. Of course, it's not quite there. I suppose what do we all do when we see a random number? Phoning our mobiles, tend to ignore
Yeah,
it. So we're doing a few things in the background to try and change that. Obviously, giving you the option maybe to book that call in, I think is something we're exploring.
okay.
Obviously, making sure that we know when that's coming, um, what number it's coming from. Maybe obviously we need to consider now you see companies where their name comes up when you make a phone call. So
Yeah.
we're looking into things like that. So we get a pretty good hit rate. Could be better, could always be better until it gets to 100%. But yeah, we are constantly monitoring how that is going.
Marvelous. How does it work when the customer doesn't have a smartphone?
Ooh. Uh,
That is more challenging.
that is certainly more challenging. I think I did look into this recently. I think it is 99.7% of the population have a smartphone.
Yeah,
Um, if they're a gym member, of course, they'll get points for just going to the gym. There are a whole host of
yeah,
activities that we can do that aren't necessarily sort of predicated on steps.
like the health
So,
check.
yeah, exactly. Health checks, obviously go and do a park run,
Yeah,
just tap in at the gym. Not to suggest that I ever used to just sort of tap my gym card as I walk past Nuffield on the way to the train station. Wouldn't do such a thing. Um, but yeah, there are a number of things that we can do outside of kind of monitoring steps to gain through those statuses. Steps, of course, are a very, very easy way for us to get through them. Dog
mm,
walkers always hit platinum faster than anybody else, in my experience.
yeah,
So yes, there will obviously be a little bit more of a challenge there. It certainly is achievable. And again, I think it's the vast, vast majority of us do For good or for bad, have a smartphone
I
nowadays.
know. Yeah, for good or for bad. Bradley has asked, did you say it totals the cinema tickets, etc., on their statement? Which, of course, it does, doesn't it? On their
Yes,
annual
yeah.
statements.
Yes, it will break down. Annoyingly, I know that my biggest reward used from Vitality is Itsu. There's one
Is
by the
it?
office. Yeah,
I
every
think
week.
mine was Expedia Hotels.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I abuse that a bit. Well, use it. Um, yes. So Bradley, yeah, that it details. I think from memory, I don't think it details every single partner,
It's
but the
just your top
large
ones.
majority of them are on there. And it's such a great way of reinforcing to a client what they are getting back. It's another reason why optimized clients are so much stickier and less likely to lapse their policies. Isabel has asked, when the customer gets to platinum status, the price will not increase anymore, even if it's been indexed.
So the indexation increase will, of course, happen. We've got that
Yes.
higher level of cover, so we have the higher premium to pay for it. But no, the premium will not change at all in relation to the optimizer. That is a 0% change.
Yeah. Is the health check with Vitality's medical team or the NHS?
Well, there's a few options there. We have
Yeah.
our at-home test kits
With Blue
going around.
Crest?
I have mine here to do.
Oh, do you?
We'll do those with our nurses. We'll phone up and you can do it at home. So we'll send you a blood sampling kit and a few other bits. Um, so you can do that. That's kind of the basic one. Blue Crest, as you mentioned, is a great option there if you wanted to go through that. And again, it's all booked through the app. So it's
Yeah.
very, very simple and easy for to do. If I wanted to book a Blue Crest health screening, I'd open the app, book in that, say I
Yeah.
want to use an Expedia discount, those sorts of things. So it's all incredibly easy to do from that app, which again continues those touch points. But yeah, Blue Crest, you can choose whatever level of health screening you want. There's a significant discount on there. Minimum 50% can be, of course, fully discounted, depending on a few factors. But yeah, great way of getting ahead of the curve when it comes to obviously some of those silent killers we see when it comes to blood pressure, high cholesterol, and the like.
Yeah. Marvelous. Bradley, I always find it hard to find a flyer for how much needs to be done, like to get through the different
Mhm.
statuses. Now, we've refreshed a few of these recently, haven't we, Gary? Our brochures and things like that. So
Yes.
we have got some much better engagement
Mm.
brochures around
I think
Optimizer.
absolutely. I think some of the videos are really useful as well.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. They're only like 1 or 2 minutes as well,
Mm.
that videos on YouTube.
Yeah,
So maybe,
but
Bradley, we can send you a couple of links for those.
yeah, we'll pick out some choice ones as follow-ups, I think.
Okay. Andrew has asked, how many steps per day to reach gold? That's a tricky answer because
Uh,
it's not necessarily, I mean, if it was just the number of steps, we could
mm,
maybe calculate it, but usually it's in combination with other things, isn't it? Like somebody doing a health check, for example,
yeah.
which usually gets them to silver status.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, let's say every year, of course, you do your standard sort of health check. So that is
Mm,
going to, as you say, get you to sort of 800 points. I think if you did 10,000 steps 4 days a week, you would be at gold.
yeah. So I think for most of us, so I am definitely not a gym goer and I have quite a sedentary job, but I managed to get to platinum status. A big proportion of that is doing the health check and just literally clicking when I first took out my policy, allowing Vitality to track my steps. And when I do stuff, I do have an Apple Watch as well. So if I go out on my bike or go out for a run occasionally, then my heart rate tells me that it's high and I get additional points for that. I think the large majority of us would get to gold status even with a pretty sedentary job, certainly from the Sports England stats anyway, Gary,
Mm,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, I get there playing golf, as you
I
quite
was going
rightly
to
pointed
say
out earlier
that.
on.
Yes. No
I'm walking
comment
to
on the
the train
golf.
station. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, look, we haven't got any other questions in here, I don't think, unless I've missed something. Well, Andrew has quite rightly asked, okay, what is the health check? So could you just
Mhm.
reiterate that for us, Gary? Maybe the
Yes.
the options that we have available, because
Mhm.
since that does make up quite a decent proportion of points.
So I think the having an understanding of our health is the starting point in all cases. You need to know where your I suppose your blind spots are. So when you start your plan year, we ask you to go into the app, and you've got effectively, I think it's 15 questions. They're just kind of, how much activity you're doing, how much fruit veg you're eating, height, weight, if you've got a blood pressure reading or anything like that. If not, we can of course invite you to have that health check. Um, and that will give you a sort of a start of a 10, a base understanding. Obviously, it's asking if you're a smoker. And obviously, the suggestion after that is, how about you use Alan Carr or one of those other smoking cessation courses that we'll offer? And I mean, I think many of you will have seen that we partnered with Google a couple of weeks back for their AI, to use AI to analyze this data and give people those suggested next actions. So it really is a case of, that is the starter. We will then give you some tips on what you can do. In many, certainly for me doing mine, one of the suggestions was, given I'm now into my early 40s, probably should go for that additional sort of Blue Crest health screening. Obviously, getting to a point where there are blood pressure and, maybe go for a couple of screenings on things, just age-related screening. So it the point with it is that we try and be as personalized as possible, not just to say everyone needs to do the same thing. We will try and steer you in the direction of the things that will make a meaningful difference when it comes to sort of preventative measures that you can take. Obviously, quit smoking, eat a bit more fruit and veg, maybe move a bit more, and then it's of course just a case of tracking that activity, and that health screening can of course just be the basic send you a test kit home, or the full kind of Blue Crest measure everything, which of course would give you potentially more points.
Yeah. Marvelous. Okay. Is it possible for a client to change to Optimizer after the policy has gone live? And also, I would ask the flip.
The other way around.
Yeah.
Um, so it's actually a lot easier to go the other way around. To
Okay.
add it
To
on
remove it.
is difficult, of course, because the point with this is that we want it from inception, because
Hmm.
that gives us the best chance of having it for the duration of the plan and it making a meaningful difference.
Yeah.
So we could do a servicing change, I suppose, to make that change, but it would be underwritten, I would
Yeah.
expect. I'll double check that one for you. One
Yeah.
thing I know for certain is the ability to remove it. So
It
you can
is.
absolutely remove it at any point. Obviously, you will lose the discount,
Yeah.
but effectively, what it gives you, I think, that certainty for, we can try this. We can see if it works. We can see if you get engaged, and if you don't, after, let's go years two, year three, year one, whatever that might look like, we can simply remove it, and you'll go back to that standard premium.
But that's helpful, isn't it? If you
Hmm.
decide as an advisor that you're going to go down this route, and like the worst case scenario or the fear that some people have is that what happens if my client doesn't engage? It's one of the
Mhm.
questions we often get asked. And the actual answer is, of course, that most people do. But if you did ever need to remove it, then you could. So
Absolutely.
hopefully that is helpful. I don't think we've got any other questions, Gary.
We're a little over
So
anyway,
unless
so it's
anyone
probably
wants
a good
to,
time
yeah,
to draw
I know,
stumps
I
here.
know. Yes. So thank you all very much again for your interactions. As always, if you've got any questions, concerns, please get in touch with your business consultant, whoever they might be.